If being broke were just about not earning enough, million-dollar lottery winners wouldn't keep going bankrupt. Yet again and again, people who touch more money than they ever imagined end up exactly where they started, stressed, in debt, and confused. That isn't an accident. It's the result of a lifetime of invisible programming through biology, family, culture, and a financial system that quietly profits when you don't understand what it's doing to you. You're watching Hidden Finance, the place where we peel back the curtain on money, power, and the systems designed to keep you in the dark. In this episode, we're not looking at charts, interest rates, or stock tickers. We're going inside your head into the beliefs, instincts, and emotional traps that quietly shape every financial decision you make. Because until you understand the psychology of money, you are playing a game whose rules were written against you. To understand why your mind is wired to struggle with money, you have to go back. Long before banks, before credit cards, before the word budget even existed, for almost all of human history, survival was a day-to-day problem. You didn't plan for retirement, you planned for tonight's meal. If your ancestors saw a chance to get food, shelter, or safety right now, taking it immediately was the smartest possible move. That instinct grab what you can today because tomorrow is uncertain is still wired into your brain. Psychologists call it present bias. We value what we can get now far more than what we could have later. You didn't choose this wiring. It's the product of hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, baked so deeply into your nervous system that saying just be disciplined is like telling your heart just beat slower. Then, about 10,000 years ago, everything changed. Agriculture meant that for the first time, humans could plan ahead in a serious way. Grain could be stored, land could be owned, surplus could be traded. Societies began to invent money first as tokens, then coins, then written credits, then banking systems to keep track of who owed what to whom. But while money evolved, the human brain didn't keep up. You were still running survival software in a world that now demanded long-term thinking. When coins and credit appeared, they clashed with instincts built for immediate survival, not distant security. The seeds of financial stress were planted the moment we asked a mind built for hunting and gathering to understand compound interest and retirement plans. Fast forward to the Industrial Revolution. For the first time, millions of ordinary people were trading their time for wages inside factories and offices. Money became less about food and more about identity, your job title, your neighborhood, your clothes. At the same time, early savings banks and insurance companies discovered something important. The fewer people understood about money, the easier it was to profit quietly from them. Then came the 20th century and with it, a new and far more powerful force, advertising. In the early 1900s, companies realized they could sell more if they didn't just talk about products, but about emotions. They hired psychologists and propagandists to understand how to bypass rational thought and go straight for your fears, your status anxiety, your desire to belong. From that moment on, your mind wasn't just shaped by your parents or your culture. It was being actively engineered by an industry whose survival depended on you wanting more than you could afford. After World War II, consumer credit exploded. In the 1950s, the modern credit card was born, turning borrowing into something frictionless, almost invisible. Before that, spending money meant physically handing over cash and feeling it leave your hand. Now, a tiny piece of plastic or today, a tap of your phone created a gap between the pain of paying and the pleasure of buying. Behavioral economists would later prove that this gap changes how you behave. When you don't feel the sting of parting with your money, you spend more often far more than you realize. The system figured out how to hack your emotional circuitry, give you the dopamine hit of consumption now, and quietly push the consequences into the future. The result is a society where normal means car loans, credit card balances, student debt, and the constant hum of background financial stress. But your programming doesn't just come from the system, it starts much earlier, in your home. If you grew up hearing we can't afford that, scarcity becomes your default lens on the world. If money was a source of conflict, raised voices, or silent resentment, your brain may have learned that money equals stress and danger. If you only saw adults working endlessly yet never getting ahead, you may have absorbed a deeper, quieter belief: no matter what I do, I will never truly be secure. Psychologists call this learned helplessness. When you repeatedly experience that effort doesn't change your situation, you stop trying even when the situation has changed. Translated into money, it sounds like budgeting never works for me, investing is just gambling, people like me don't get rich. These aren't facts. They're stories written into you by experiences you didn't choose. Layered on top of that is something even more dangerous: social comparison. In the past, you'd compare yourself to your village, your street, your small circle. Today, your brain is plugged into a 24/7 parade of curated lifestyles, luxury trips, and success stories from people you will never meet. Your nervous system is constantly being told, you are behind, you are lacking, you are not enough. This triggers one of the most powerful psychological drivers of financial decisions: shame. Shame pushes you to spend to keep up. Shame keeps you from asking basic questions because you feel like you should already know. Shame convinces you that if you aren't already good with money, you never will be, so why even look at the numbers? By the late 20th century, the financial industry had fully embraced the science of human weakness. Credit limits were raised not because people could afford them, but because algorithms showed that a certain percentage would revolve debt for years. Mortgage products were designed to feel safe while hiding complex risks beneath. Governments, too, quietly benefited from consumer spending and rising asset prices, which made economies look stronger. Until the music stopped in 2008, it did. The global financial crisis was not just about bad loans and risky derivatives. It was about human behavior, about optimism bias over confidence, and the deep desire to believe that housing prices could only ever go up. Millions of individuals signed papers they didn't fully understand, guided by professionals who themselves were caught in a web of incentives and blind spots. The crash exposed something uncomfortable: our entire financial system rests on a foundation of human psychology, not cold rationality. Markets move not just on earnings reports, but on stories, on fear, on hope. And when too many people are programmed to chase status now and worrying about risk later, the result is bubbles, crashes, and lives turned upside down. You were told the problem was irresponsible borrowers or greedy bankers, but underneath both was the same fragile machinery: the human mind under pressure. Today, the programming has become even more precise. Your spending habits are tracked in real time, your attention is auctioned off to the highest bidder, and your impulses are studied by machine learning models. Buy now, pay later buttons appear exactly where your willpower is weakest. Investment apps are gamified to make trading feel like a game, even when you're risking your future. So if your brain is ancient, your upbringing was chaotic, your culture is obsessed with status, and the system is actively designed to tempt you, does that mean you're doomed to stay broke? No. Because here is the most important truth about the psychology of money: your programming is powerful, but it is not permanent. It can be rewritten if you understand how it was written in the first place. The first shift is understanding that being good with money is not about intelligence. It's about behavior. Many highly educated people are terrible with money, while some of the most financially secure people never finished school. The difference is rarely knowledge, it's habits, emotions, and systems. Once you stop saying "I'm bad with money" and start saying "I'm learning the skills of money," you move from identity to growth. Next comes your relationship with time. Your default wiring wants pleasure now and pushes pain into the future. To reprogram that, you have to flip your internal script from spend first, save what's left, to save first, spend what's left. Automatic transfers, retirement contributions, and paying yourself first are not just financial tricks. They're psychological armor against your own impulses. You also need to change the stories you tell yourself about what money is for. If money is about impressing others, you will always feel poor, no matter how much you earn. If money is about safety, freedom, and options, then every dollar you don't spend becomes a step toward a life with fewer compromises. The same paycheck can either buy you more stuff or more time and control over your future. Environment is another form of programming, and you can use it on purpose. If every app on your phone is designed to make you spend, you can remove them or hide them. If certain friends pressure you to live a little in ways that wreck your budget, you can limit those situations. If you see your accounts only when bills are due, you can choose to look weekly on your terms so that awareness becomes a habit instead of a crisis. One of the most powerful tools to rewire your money mind is something remarkably simple: pause. The space between impulse and action is where your power lives. A 24-hour or 7-day rule on non-essential purchases gives your slower, rational brain time to wake up. That tiny delay is often enough to reveal that what felt like a need was just a momentary hit of emotion. Another crucial step is learning to tolerate discomfort. Changing your financial life will feel awkward at first, even wrong. Spending less than your friends may trigger old feelings of shame or fear of rejection. But every time you sit with that discomfort instead of outrunning it with another purchase, you're weakening the old program and strengthening a new one. And then there's investing. The markets are a mirror of mass psychology: greed, fear, euphoria, panic. Most people lose not because they don't know what to invest in, but because they can't control how they react when prices move. Understanding that volatility is normal, that downturns are part of the game, and that time in the market beats timing the market, all of that is psychological training, not just financial theory. When you start making these shifts, you'll notice something strange. The world around you doesn't suddenly become fair or gentle. The system doesn't change overnight, but your role inside it does. Instead of being pulled along by invisible forces, you begin to see them. And step aside, you realize that the ads were designed to poke your insecurities, that your childhood experiences were explaining your behavior, not dictating your destiny. That your brain's ancient wiring isn't a life sentence, just a starting point. The same forces that once kept you stuck can become data, information you use to build a life where money is a tool, not a tyrant. And that is the deeper lesson of the psychology of money. This was never about just learning how to budget or picking the right stock. It was about waking up to the fact that your thoughts, your emotions, and your environment have been quietly steering your financial life for years. The moment you see that clearly, the game changes. You stop asking, "Why am I so bad with money?" and start asking, "Who benefits from me staying this way, and what happens if I don't?" Your mind was programmed to stay broke. By evolution, by upbringing, by culture, and by a system that works best when you don't ask too many questions. But that programming only holds as long as it remains invisible. Now you've seen it, and once you see the code, you can start to rewrite it. This is Hidden Finance, where we expose the stories, systems, and psychological tricks behind every dollar in your life, so you can stop being managed by money and start mastering it. Because in a world built to profit from your confusion, the most radical financial act is to finally understand yourself.